So I just said to myself before I pushed the button, I don't know, that may sound preposterous. We'll have to see. Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student or a human being. Because what I have to share with you, especially about core new tension, is biomechanical, and it's about how your body engages itself to move through space. I only have two things on my list today, and my head is spaghetti on all of the subjects. Because number one is tactile cueing in a pandemic, and number two is, what do you need to do Pilates? And there's sort of two titles trying to illuminate some of the same thing that I'm trying to share with you. On Facebook a day or two ago, a listener asked about tactile cueing, and in the age, it's 2020, in the age of COVID-19, it's a scary thing. And if I had a business, if I had a studio, and usually I just narrow my focus to if I were a Pilates instructor, if I was running a Pilates studio, right? Because my concern is in illuminating what Pilates is in and of itself, if it is anything at all, rather than taking whatever it is you know of it and applying it beyond what it already is, fundamentally, my opinion. So, I do most of my teaching here by word of mouth and video and engaging your thinking in order to hopefully listen. But I'm always talking about sensation, and that the two things you have to learn from me are both sensational. You can feel them. When it came to a question about tactile cueing, where everyone's wearing masks, I go from masks to gloves, and when gloves seem preposterous, like I started out talking about, I think of socks, and what a big industry socks are in the Pilates world, you know, with a friction grip, and you can see the toes, and right, it's a connection, but it's a purposeful sock used within the Pilates culture and beyond, or the Pilates culture is a part of, however you want to say that. But socks. I wonder if you could get custom-made, imprinted rubber gloves, surgical gloves kind of thing. So, if I was running a studio, I think communication is really important so that at least somebody knows where you're coming from and what it's about. I read a really good article on the web about the 4 things you need to know about the virus, how it's transmitted and such. So communication, and then procedures Now, to survive as a Pilates instructor or student, but interacting with other people, right? What procedures do you want to establish, or are you operating under now? And I thought of those bracelets that are plastic and you can get them imprinted. It might indicate whether or not a person was willing or interested in tactile cueing. I'm coming back to that thing about tactile cueing and insurance and releases and communication. And just because a student may not care if, or miss or want tactile cueing, it's an agreement from both arenas and the studio at large. And so in my past broadcasts, I've talked about students that aren't able to engage physically very well or at all. And to the extent that they're impaired, I talk about then working with and developing their mind as to what's going on and what your target is and how you hope to hit it and where you're aiming for from wherever you're at. And that you can inform and educate your student to the extent that physical interaction is limited, whether by choice or the shape that they're in or their religion or whatever. And in my notes, when I went from going more, go more mind. So you go more mind when the possibility or the range of physical interaction is limited. You then go to the mind and educate the mind. And that led me to, if you're running a studio, then setting the frame of mind, at least where you're coming from as a studio or as an owner, or even from you to your client. All you have are rich clients you go from person to person with. But something that says, here's my frame of mind on this. Which takes me to number 2. Which is a question. What do you need to do Pilates? What do you need to do Pilates? I always come to the delightful interaction I had with a student who I'd worked with several times in the course of my stay there, and they were young, and he owned his own bank, and that was a small part of the family behind that kind of thing. And when he showed up, I arrested him, walked him in with a mapped out area as big as a cell would be, a jail cell, with a mat, and said, okay, we're going to forget about you maybe forever. Right? You're locked up, nowhere to go, nothing to do, and it boils down to what? Well, my second thing was, you need to know, what do you need? You need to know what you're doing. Or you need to know what, I like doing better. You need to know what you're doing, and I think you need a mat. Because if you really want to do Pilates and press out and expand your spine and tension, You want to protect your spine so that you don't hurt it rolling on a hard surface. That was obvious on rock at Boulder Falls. That was obvious in Switzerland, rolling like a ball, and done so brilliantly by the instructions, but the next day, down the back, abrasion on each one of the vertebrae, because it was not a thick enough mat for the way you feel yourself out in your body when you're rolling doing Pilates. So a mat really helps. It's important to be able to do it right. But then to know what you're doing, see, that's the other thing. If all you're doing is sitting there because you don't know what to do and you don't know how to do it, so that you can do what? So that you can find the experience. And that's in my conclusion here. Surviving is the whole point. See? Surviving makes it a point. That surviving is an issue. And in exhaling to prepare and in doing Pilates as preparation, right, for whatever comes up. It's about surviving. And Pilates is an ideal reflection of the reality we find ourselves in. So that what's ideal in it is based on what is real that we're in. 3D space, right? Gravity, rotation. I think it's good to remember that you may be the only one around, and in your effort to get prepared for what's ever next, it might be nice to be able to be doing Pilates to find the experience. And so an MMP as a POV, that means in Michael Miller Pilates, which is a brand, in that point of view, the essence of what makes Pilates Pilates is the experience. The coordination of body, mind, and spirit as a state of being in the body in the moment of the doing. It comes in flashes or moments, and you dive into your effort to perform, and you ebb and flow in your ability to express the movement. And so in the midst of a high state of viral contagion, it's about surviving. And if, to me, I don't know if it's a good question or a bad question, but if people wear socks so much, I don't know why it wouldn't be stylish, if they were stylish, to wear gloves as well. Like tissues on the way in the door. Interesting thought, huh? Anyway. To the extent that suddenly you may find yourself, see, this is the point. What do you need to do Pilates? Because the fact that all you really need is a mat, if that really, you don't have to have a mat. You just probably wouldn't roll on your spine and do those exercises. But if you can protect your spine and actually do the mat work, the sequence, to find the experience, that's what you're after. Because that's what takes your capacities into a state of coordination that makes you present and ready for anything. And that's the purpose of the preparation. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain. If I don't have your email address, go to michaelmillerpilates.com and sign up for it. Or just send me an email at michaelmillerpilates. That's a good one. What's my email address now? Go there, michaelmillerpilates.com. Get on the email list. Because I'm working on something that I would like to have an email on to help notify you, because where I'm headed is toward emails making announcements to invite group participation and to enable remote teaching online. How do you still be a Pilates instructor? Maybe while you're quarantined. See, what if it's you that's quarantined? And my bottom line is that if it's you that's quarantined, you want to be doing the mat to get what you get in the experience. And if you're not the one quarantined, but half of your class is, it might be better just to continue the class online, which is where I'm headed to and what I hope you'll be interested in being part of. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain. Because life can't live forever. Connect the dots. Evaluate points of view and how to deliver yours. Direct your thinking as much as you can. Know how to add 2 and 2. Direct your thinking and Geist